Reimbursement today, accepting the field competition.
The word. Welcome everyone to the Middle School Building Committee meeting of Monday, July 15th. We're located in room, 219 of the Savage Center, and this is a virtual meeting. So, quorum being present, welcome everyone. In particular, I'd like to welcome our new superintendent of the Newark Public Schools, Tim Luff, who's with us virtually. And welcome, Tim.
Thank you, and hi everyone. Thank you.
Good, okay. Let's get right to it. The first item we have on the agenda are the minutes of the June 10th, 2024 meeting.
I move to approve the minutes as submitted.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. Let's, because this is a virtual meeting, let's call the roll. Matt Lane?
Yes.
Paul Riccardi?
Abstain.
Teresa Stewart?
Abstain because I wasn't there.
Okay. Bob Donnelly?
Yes.
Jason Adams?
Aye.
Margot Frazek?
Yes.
Gary Pelletier?
Yes.
Tim Luff?
Abstain as I was not in attendance.
Okay, and chairman votes yes. Did I forget anybody? I don't think so. Cool, okay. Motion passes, I believe, 7-2 with two abstentions?
6-3.
Next item on the agenda are the approval of the invoices of June 2024. Turn it over to Brian and Anissa.
We have, following on the screen, we have three major invoices, the usual three from Vertex, AI3, and WT Rich. Vertex invoice for services in June is a total of $86,023.35. Two AI3 invoices, one for $69,543.62 and one for $1,993.27. And then the WT Rich payment application for month ending June, inclusive of change orders to date, is $6,922,199.87 for a total for the month of June of $7,079,760.11.
Okay. Any questions on that? Pleasure of the committee.
I'll make a motion to approve and accept the invoices for June.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, let's take a vote. Again, this will be a roll call vote. Matt Lane?
Yes.
Paul Riccardi?
Yes.
Jason Adams? Bob Donnelly?
Yes.
Teresa Stewart?
Yes.
Margot Frazek?
Yes.
Gary Pelletier?
Yes.
Tim Luff?
Yes, yes.
And chairman votes yes. Great, unanimous. Thank you, everyone. Okay. Next item on the agenda is the project update.
Sure, I'll take you through that. Thank you, Alan.
Okay, Luke, thank you.
This first photos we can see up here, this is from WT Rich's drone shots. They take a drone shot monthly. This one was taken in early June. As we can see in this shot here, ADB is substantially complete, and the building C side, which is on the left side of the screen here, continuing on the right side of the screen into building A and wrapping around to the west side of building A, continuing on the south side of the building. You can see where there were some loading bays in the area C that are being infilled now. And I think the one in Area B is going to remain through the end of the project. And continuing with brick install in Area B, heading into Area A. Next photo. This is just the opposite side of the building, same time frame, early June. This is the south side. We can see sheathing is complete on the south side of Area A. On the left side of the screen, middle side of the screen will be Area B, where the curtain wall is installed at the media center there in the middle, and heading to the east side of the building with the gym, where framing and sheathing is ongoing. And some more detailed photos of the progress on site. So WT Rich mobilized to the parking lots on the north and the south of the building just after school was released in late June to put some extensive work in place this summer. On the left side, we can see an overall shot of the north parking lot where utility excavation is ongoing, to be followed by some pipe and conduit installed and some duct banks. And the middle shot there is a retaining wall between the existing north parking lot and the tennis courts, as the elevation of the parking lot gets raised through this project. So that retaining wall is in place, completed end of last week. And at the south parking lot, again, ongoing heavy activity in there this summer, and they are right now stripping and installing utility structures as of today. On the inside of the building, drywall is installed is in a heavy flow right now. Right now, the photo we can see here, this is at the media center and the reading room on the second floor in Area B, just inside of that curtain wall there. Drywall going on in there. Drywall also proceeding in the stairways and the stair forward. That's in Area C. That stair was completed again last week. In the mock-up room on the second floor, which I believe most of you have been in, we're continuing to install the light fixtures in that room to give everybody a sense of that. And then tile is continuing in Area C. This is some wall tile installed in the bathroom on the third floor there. For some milestone activities that were completed on site since we last met, the final slab on grade in Area A was poured. This was for the 5th and 6th grade kitchen. This area was held back for some underground utilities that need to be installed in that area for the kitchen equipment. That was the last major concrete pour. Drywall install, again, is the majority of the progress on site right now. Install was completed on the 3rd and the 4th floor in Area C last month, and the 4th floor in Area B as well. In-wall inspections continue in Area B. Area C, 2nd floor and 3rd floor were signed off last month by Gary and his team. And then our third-party inspection agency is out on site. Last month we did a major test at the curtain wall, which passed, and we closed out a item we've had open since the winter, which was a chain drag for the slabs on the 3rd and the 4th floor in Area B, where we had some temperature issues where that concrete was curing. So this was just a check from the engineer to confirm we had no issues there, and the test by the third-party testing agency, which was completed, so we can close that item out. The major items that are continuing on site, again, the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire protection subcontractors continue to install their rough material in Areas C, B and A. Area C substantially complete, with some work continuing on the 1st floor there. Interior framing is ongoing on the 3rd and 4th floors in Area A. The mason continues to install brick and block on the exterior of the building, working right now on the west elevation of Area A. Metal installation of metal windows continues along that northern elevation as well, falling behind the mason. Ceiling grid has mobilized, and they've started to install their material on the 2nd floor in Area C. Painting of walls is ongoing in Area B. And as we mentioned, the excavation for underground utilities is heavy in the summer in the north and the south parking lots to return those lots to the school for the end of the summer, start of the school year.
Any questions on general status, construction status?
I just had a question, just for my own edification, I guess. What is the testing of the curtain wall? What does that entail?
Water and air. So they build a chamber on the inside of the building to suck the air and the water through the window, and we're looking for water on the inside of that.
Okay. And if you find some that it doesn't pass, but if
we find some. We obviously look into the issue, correct it, test that area again, and then test another section to confirm.
Yeah, so all the curtain wall in the front of the media center, in front of the building, that was tested.
tested and passed. Yeah, okay, cool, thanks.
Just one other question. On the south parking lot, just out of curiosity, that's a pretty deep dig. How far down do you have to excavate to clear that area out?
They ended up going down 2 to 3 feet on average. There's some some deeper utilities, obviously, that they had to trench for, but they're starting, if you see now, there's that bulldozer out, they're starting to spread that back out and bring it up. So the net grade change isn't that drastic of a difference, but when we had to take out the old material, we ended up going down probably 3 feet-ish on average.
That was a very large hill of dirt.
Yes.
Yeah, so net is not very substantial. The north side actually comes up quite a bit from the
Yes.
prior grade, so that's why I have the retaining wall, so that's more of a change of grade.
Thank you.
So moving on, construction admin update. So last month we received 23 new submittals that AI3 is processing, and we received 38 new RFIs. And to date, we have 46 proposal requests that have been issued. Quick MSBA update. So to date, the MSBA has paid a total of $20,592,546 in reimbursements to the town. That's through reimbursement request number 31, and that totals 39% of the MSBA grants for the project. And here's kind of a brief summary of all of the meetings that we held last month. A couple ones to note is we had a meeting with Jason Adams and the procurement, and we issued our first technology purchase order last month. We met with the Haas Pool construction team just to coordinate, since we're right next to each other and there's a lot going on in South Norwood. And then WT Rich also coordinated. We did a STEM presentation to the 8th grade students at the Copley. Over on the right is a list of upcoming meetings during the month of July. Just one big one that we just completed, we met with Norwood Light about coordination of keeping the existing building online and running while also providing fiber and bringing the new building online. So there's a little coordination in that. So that'll be an ongoing coordination item. And then just a quick update on FF&E and technology, not really much to talk about. The budgets were approved last month. We're on schedule, and we anticipate issuing requests for proposals and soliciting bids for both FF&E and technology, probably starting the end of August. So, a little update there.
Any questions on FF&E or tech?
Just going to quickly say on some of the FF&E and technology, when you say invitation to bid, is some of this stuff on the state list that's available?
Yeah, all of the technology items we're gonna bid off the state contract list, all vendors that Joe's comfortable with and has used in the past.
Okay.
And then for FF&E, we're going through AI3's consultant, ICD. They're actually issuing invitations to bid and proposals.
Okay.
So I'm sure some of them will probably overlap, with the state contract. But,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Sure.
Bob?
The Haas Pool, it looks like things are going well right now. Is that going to be continuing to meet with the construction team there to ensure things are going smoothly, or?
I think as needed. We're totally separate, but just as like a kickoff, since we're in the same area and parking's tight and our sites kind of abut each other, we just did like an initial meeting. We have their contact info, they have ours, so if anything comes up, we can coordinate with them.
All right, and budget updates. So this is the budget status report that's contained in the vendor invoice package that you receive in your overall packet. This is inclusive of the invoices that you approved at this meeting. Just no major changes to OPM contract. No major changes to the architect or engineering on the next slide. And at the bottom there, construction, you can see includes change orders 1 through 9. The other thing to note is that this budget column, F, which is the first column on the left, that's now inclusive of the project funding agreement bid amendment from the MSBA. So that's been updated to reflect what that bid amendment was, as noted on the invoice package that went out to you in the owner's memo. The total project budget from the MSBA's perspective is now 147,900,854, which you see just up from the bottom there on the left in the gray line. What we did is we put the remaining, if you will, funds that were part of the original appropriation of 150 below the line to show you, at the end of the day, the project, funding is still 150 million. And if you follow that last line boxed in green to the right, total project budget is the 147,900. Commitments and contracts to date is 132. We've paid about 62 million. We have 70 million left to go on existing commitments. And we have uncommitted funds of about 15 million left in that budget, plus the 2 million, obviously, funding that was appropriated for the project gets you back to a total of 150 with about 17 million of uncommitted. What you should note, though, is the FF&E technology line items are mostly uncommitted at this time, even though we're going to spend all of that. We're just not projecting that. So there's about 4 to 5 million left in that line item. But overall, project budget is doing very well, in good shape. But just so you know that this now reflects how the MSBA sees this budget.
All right, all good news. Any questions from anyone? Okay, thank you.
And just the last update there, as Anissa pointed out, this is also a snippet from a report that's in the vendor invoice package from this month, just highlighting we're up to payment request number 32 with the MSBA. As Anissa mentioned, that we've been paid through 31. 32 went in June. We're running at 54% of eligible costs that have been submitted have been reimbursed, which is on track with the stated reimbursement rate. And then we're up to roughly 45% or so of the grant has been paid back to date. Keeping in mind, for those of you who aren't aware, they stop at 95% until the final audit's complete, which could take 18 months at the end of the project to get that final 5%. But right now we're about 45% through, so we're in good shape.
Okay.
Is that why earlier in the presentation you said 39%?
So it's inclusive of
Yep.
the 32, right? So of number 32.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on that? Again, all good news. All right, next item is change order number 10.
Sure, and everybody has a hard copy of our updated change order log for your review. If you have any questions, let us know. The items in green are included in change order 10, which is detailed here on the screen, which I can walk through each individual one. So first one, we show 8081 was some revisions to the drain manhole 211 and 219. So these two manholes were installed at a slightly higher elevation than which would need for the proper drainage. So once these other two, sorry, let me take a step back. So there are two other manholes, not 211 and 219, that were installed at a different elevation. So in order to get the proper drainage on these two manholes, we had to raise the elevation of these two manholes, which were already installed. So they had to be removed and reinstalled by the site contractor. The cost there is $21,105.
And can I just, so why is that? Someone installed them,
Correct, yep.
installed them off of the plans?
Off of the plans, yeah. The elevations on the drawings were incorrect. So in order to correct them, they just went to the next ones that had not been installed yet to correct those ones.
Yeah, so we stopped, drew the line, they fixed everything going forward before it got installed. We just had to go back the one manhole and reinstall that so that the drainage would work correctly.
So let me just say something. Don't anyone take it personally. Where's the responsibility of the architect, of W.T. Rich, of Vertex, on these errors and omissions? Because they're adding up. We're coming close to $1 million if you include, obviously, the loading docks. So it just seems to me that the street is totally one way. And, it's a whole different way of handling construction. Change orders are site issues, unforeseen site issues, owner changes their mind, or errors and omission. And what I believe is we have a fair amount of errors and omissions in the design package. And it's coming back to cost the town more money. I mean, this one's a perfect example. The plans were wrong. You know, they put them in, and then it didn't line up with where it's supposed to. And the town's paying request to pay $21,000 for the fix. It's a great country.
No, I understand what you're saying, Paul. I mean, I think we try to mitigate these as much as we can with drawing reviews, during design, and looking at things, and sometimes you catch it, sometimes you don't. Whether or not this was one that got caught or didn't get caught, it appears that it didn't get caught. We do track the sources of those change orders on this PCO log to put that in context, to see exactly, what is our errors of omission? Is there a standard of care that's being somewhat, violated? So we have been tracking that. We can take a look at it overall. I mean, I think we've had credits come back out of the project where we've saved money. So I mean, right now we're tracking what we're calling drawing issues, if you will, at an overall credit, including of this, of like $54,000. So while there's been some ads, there's been some other ones that have offset it. So, but we can look into that to see the true.
But I
understand what you're saying. Yeah.
I haven't got past the loading costs. The
Right.
lack of the loading.
Understood. So let us frame that in a little more context, and then I can follow up with you.
And thank you.
All right, next one, PCO 8085. This was for a coordination item with the plumbing and the sprinkler room door. So the room was scheduled to have a 36-inch door, which was in conflict with the size of the water heaters. The water heater was a 36-inch water heater, or 35 and some change. So the door was revised to a 42-inch door to allow for maintenance and access. Cost here is just for the larger door, $720 there. Nothing was installed yet, so it did not have to be, no rework in this situation. PCO 8097 was the result of an RFI where the design team reviewed a subgrade fabric, a geotextile fabric that was below the bituminous paving, and based on their evaluation of the site conditions, it was determined that that was not needed to be installed, so we got a credit back of $13,126 to not install that material. Next one, 8098. This was a submittal review with the fused panel. Coordination with that submittal, there was an ad for this product and a separate PCO to try and get ahead of some lead time issues. Once the coordination was done, it was revised, and the fuses were revised, resulted in a credit of $6,510. Next one, PCO 8089 for some revisions to the TV broadcast studio. This was in coordination with Jack Tolman and his group. There was a credit for some lights and outlets that were supposed to be controlled by switches in the TV broadcast room, and those were revised to just be standard duplex outlets for them to plug in the auditorium. Cost there $2,719. Next one, PCO 8061 R1. This is for a handful of RFIs. There was some coordination with the fire department on the location of the fire department connection on the exterior of the building, and then we relocated some roof hydrants from outside of the building, or inside the building to outside of the building, based on coordination with them and their request. Cost for these changes, $10,532. Next one, PCO 8092. This is for proposal request 44, which was reviewed at last month's meeting. This is the revision to the underground utilities for the overhead utility lines that were feeding the athletic lights at the sports field. So we presented three options, and the group decided that the best option would be to install a new dedicated duct bank with all the lines running underground on the north and the south side of the building. Cost here for the additional duct bank, excavation, and installation by Griffin, the electrician, is $240,432. Next one, PCO 8080 for RFI 348. This was a coordination item with the AVB and the installation. There was a handful of hollow metal exterior door frames where the AVB termination was not called out and the frames were intended to be insulated. So these were insulated, a few of them were insulated on site and the rest were caught by the door installer colony as they were doing their install. Cost for this change $4,963. Next one, PCO 8090 for PR30. This was an ad for the electrician to furnish and install data and power for some digital display monitors above the food service cabinet counters, and the monitors will be installed and purchased through FF&E. So the cost for the electrician to do the install here of electrical data only, some blocking for the TVs to hang to also, $26,039. Next one, 8088 for PR42, just added an additional outlet in the isolated resting room on the first floor, room 102E. Cost here for the electrician to install that power is $2,132. And finally, PCO 8096 for tile return at the lockers. So there's a detail coordination item here where the tile returned to the lockers in the corridors. The documents had it as an exposed edge, so we added a sluter strip there to close that detail for the cost of $2,852. And in total, these, I think 11 PCOs total $291,860. Any questions on any of them?
I had a question about the permit design changes for the sprinkler.
Sprinkler permit, yep.
Not to belabor the point, I think Mr. Riccardi kind of spoke of this. Was this something that, again, was the design off in the beginning, or was it something that the fire department said, we actually want this in a different spot?
The latter. So
The latter.
Yeah, so the documents had everything, like we had roof connections on the outside of the building. They wanted them on the inside of the building, so at the top of the stairwell, just flipping where the connection point was on the exterior side of the wall.
Okay.
And then the second part was their hose connection was at the front of the building, basically right next to the main entrance. They wanted it at the rear of the building in a more quiet place where if there is an event,
Yeah.
they're not there trying to set up their equipment while people are exiting the building.
Okay. But they had input in the beginning of the project, right? So at some point, they were okay with where things were placed and...
Correct.
They have
As far as
some-
our understanding.
No?
No, it was always supposed to be in the back.
Okay.
Well, that's standard, it's the same place it is in high school.
Yep. Yeah, it's not how the documents were drawn, so.
Okay.
But
Okay, any further questions, comments from anyone? Pleasure of the committee on change order number 10.
Go ahead, Paul. I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. Let's take a roll call vote. Matt Lane,
Yes.
Paul Riccardi,
Yes.
Jason Adams, Bob Donnelly,
Yes.
Teresa Stewart,
Yes.
Margot Frezek,
Yes.
Gary Pelletier,
Yes.
Tim Luff,
Yes.
and Chairman votes yes, unanimous. Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, I'll just add, just for people following along, so the PCO log that you have in front of you that comes out as part of the package, we do track, to Paul's point, we do track kind of the origin of what those change orders are. So all the change orders have a code associated with them that kind of assigns what was the reason for the change order. So the last page kind of gives you the breakdown of what those are. So to date, we track two things. We track how quickly are you going through your contingency and what does that amount represent versus contingency versus overall construction budget, and also compare it to the progress of the project. So in orange there, you see approved COs to date equal just over 660,000. That's roughly 0.6% of the overall construction budget, so less than 1%. Project, we need to update that number, but project completion on the building is over 50% at this time. and you look down the blue, we've only spent 7% of the contingency. So from a burn perspective, we spent 7%, but the project is 50% complete, so that's a good comparison. And then we also track, well, what's still out there, the estimated and pending, which show up in blue. You know, if all the estimated and pending, you just approve the 291, actually happen and get approved, you know, what would that then look like? You know, change orders then come in roughly about 1%. So, while the, you know, ideally, you don't have any change orders and there's, you know, no good misses, if you, so to speak, like our goal is to make sure that we're keeping it something reasonable. That being said, we still want to make sure that, you know, that standard of care is still being upheld, and we do go through these in pretty great detail. WT Rich has been great at reviewing them with subs, making sure that what we do get is fair and reasonable if there is a change order condition. So we'll continue that. That gets updated every month, just so when you're paying attention, something to look at.
Okay. All right.
So next topic, EV charging stations. So last month we gave a high-level presentation of what the project owned installing for EV charging stations. And we were asked to go back and look at the potential to install a few more. So to take us back, so the project currently owns installing 3 dual stations, one in each of the 3 parking lots, one in front of the school, one at the north lot, one at the south lot, which are those clouded regions there on the drawing. And then we got a price to install additional stations at about $36,000 per station. We were asked to go back and look at installing an additional 12 stations, which comes with a rough order of magnitude of about $435,000. We laid it out with 6 of the 6 stations at each lot, 6 at the north, 6 at the south, which are identified by the orange highlight there. If this is accepted, this will give you 15 stations that can serve 30 cars on day one. And based on the 10% code updates that have been approved recently, where 10% of the spaces need to be EV ready, with the additional 12, the project, the lots will be just over the 10%, at 10.8%. If we stick to the 12, we're just over 1%.
Okay. Couple of things. We definitely want to see some more stations. The question is, do we want to go up to 30 at this point, knowing that we don't necessarily need that many right now, and the technology is changing. So in 5 years, what's the technology going to be looking like? On the other hand, we do have money available, but we don't spend money just because we have money available. So I think when everything's said and done, we could stick with what we have, go all the way up to 24 new ones, or go sort of split the difference and go with 12. You said that the new code requirement would be 10%.
Yes, that's what we talked about last month, the new
Okay.
energy code.
So this would meet the new code requirement, which we're not subject to.
Correct.
Because we started it before, but if we were, that would be the standard. Did anyone ever look into whether a normal car can park at one of these
There's nothing
charging
saying
stations?
otherwise right now.
Nothing that says you can't?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. All right. Do we have any thoughts from people on what they'd like to see?
Does the science package just say EV parking only? I mean, physically you can park in the space, but usually there's signs that accompany it.
I think it just identifies it as an EV parking spot.
Okay.
I could not confirm if this is only on, I can double check with you guys.
Yeah, because just what I'm concerned about is we put too many stations in initially with restricted parking spaces. That may create a problem on year one, at the site.
And that could be part of the discussion today, if the sign language is, they're not fabricated yet, right? So we can choose what we want
Yeah.
those signs to say, so.
Okay.
Are we at capacity though for day one parking with staff?
No, I believe so. I think we're over capacity. We have 312 spots.
Yeah,
So
so
we're doing
there's-
well with our parking, so.
So in theory, if no one had an EV car, everyone would be able to park in a non-EV space.
All right.
But it's not during the school year that's impacted. It's the weekends.
Right.
With the youth athletics, that the place gets blocked.
Right. But I don't know if we can control the number of cars that actually try to come there.
No,
Yeah.
just, if we, down the road, and it will happen, if electric vehicles make a comeback now and keep getting stronger, there'll be rules that'll come out and
Yep.
say, you can't park in an EV, so that reduces
Yep.
parking in the place. But that's the world we live in.
But I think just to your point now, on day one, all the teachers would have a spot to park in regardless of whether these were EV or not, right? I mean,
Yes.
just,
Would there also be visitors parking available?
yeah, I believe there's also visitors parking.
Yeah, I have about 130 staff members
Yeah.
total. So
Okay.
that would be
Yeah.
Okay.
a lot of parking.
Yeah, so 100-something extra spots from
Okay.
a school day perspective.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I did
Yeah.
attend a seminar recently on EV charging, and one of the philosophies they noted, and it's somewhat encapsulated on the rightmost spots, was that people with EV cars will be willing to walk farther. They'll park over
yeah.
there, whereas, the ones a little bit closer to the building, obviously some people with EVs may have mobility issues, so we might want a few there. But if we made those EV parking only, where at Town Hall we have set 4 EV parking only spots, and those are often left empty and they're closest to the building. So people sometimes get frustrated, but a handful of the panelists mentioned that when they're doing design, whether it's in a garage or a large parking spot, that they'll put the EV chargers farther away because, again, many of the people are willing to walk the extra distance.
That's interesting. I wonder if that's sort of a newer trend, because I think when they did the Big Y parking lot here, the EV stations are like right up against they're at the front.
BTUs are very close as well.
But that, I mean, it makes sense what you're saying, so maybe, and there's nothing that says we can't put them in the back, right?
No, the impact would be the additional cost in running conduit
Conduit that far.
and the wire further away from the building, from the source.
Yeah.
So that's an added cost.
Yeah. I guess
Typically, what I see is they're closer to the building, or as
Okay.
close to the source as they can be without disrupting accessible parking.
So we own
Just because it's cheaper to
infrastructure
have that,
to
cheaper
dispense
to
it.
run it. Yeah.
Because I guess the question now is that, the lots are open. You can do whatever you want right now. So it's a matter of we probably have to make a decision on what we'd like to do.
So WT Rich owns installing infrastructure for the additional stations to these 2 locations.
Yeah.
So they're installing conduit now as part of the site work.
Okay.
So we could decide this at a later date. We could.
And we do have one spot at the front of the building, so across from the main entrance, there's one EV spot there, right?
Well, there's one dual station, so two spot for
spots.
2 vehicles at
Yeah.
the very front of it.
One station's one,
Yeah.
that's.
Yeah, but that's already
That's already there,
accounted for.
that's
yeah.
already in the plans right now. The question to the committee is if you wanted to, on day one, did you want to have an additional, what are we saying, 12 stations? 6 and 6, right?
Yes.
But we do have infrastructure to those
Yeah.
2 locations.
Any thoughts from anyone? Whether you'd like to wait, make a decision, or simply make a decision now?
And that's installed next, well, both of these would be installed for next year, was
The
there, what is
actual
the
chargers will be
timeline?
installed next year, yes.
Okay.
The conduit, the larger conduit that goes to the one point where we have the infrastructure in the south lot is going in this summer.
Yeah,
But from there, you can
branch
do
out.
it a year from now, you can do it 20 years from now.
Yeah, okay.
You'll have capacity to that location for future.
Is that both in the south and the north parking lots?
The north will not be installed immediately. They are getting some of it installed, but not all the way to this point. This is part of the next phase when we take over that area. That's currently in your temporary parking.
Oh,
space.
okay, all right. Well, again, thoughts from people whether we'd like to wait or do something now? Any feelings one way or the other?
I think it would be good to see how the first 6 are used from a perspective of these are in the school as compared to your other facilities, so the majority would be teachers using electrical vehicles. Seeing how they utilize that, I don't think on the weekends most people think let's go to the EV charging stations to charge our car. It's more of like a it's great if it's there, but it's not something we think about. So I think as far as the use for the EV charging stations being for the school faculty,
Yeah.
what's the push and what's the draw? Who has electric vehicles now, and how do they utilize them?
Yeah, because, also, as you know, these fields are used extensively for youth sports, and there would be a number of people who have vehicles, which could use the station, so.
Definitely too, in the summer, more the travel games, people from coming out of town might be more inclined to use it.
Yeah.
Maybe not necessarily people that live in town, which is more during the school year. So that would be interesting to see what the impact is on the summer.
Yeah.
Is there a thought maybe to put, stations at maybe one of these locations rather than two, and think about what we want to do with the other one? Or wait for and put everything in at once, or not?
I would get it over with. Put them in. Well, it's gonna end up happening, so now's the time to do it.
I think to Luke's point, the infrastructure is going to be there.
Yeah.
There's nothing that would be, it wouldn't be negative for us to wait and see. I mean, it's not an insignificant amount of money at this stage of the project, with potential additional change orders coming down the pipe.
So your feeling is we have the infrastructure in, let's wait a little further along in the project, and then make a decision how many we'd like to put in.
If they're in a better position, if costs remain on budget and have the additional funds, I don't think anybody argues that it's a good investment. I think it's not something we have to do. And if we find ourselves 9 months from now in a position that we don't have all of the financial resources that we'd like, we can't undo it. So the infrastructure's there. You can install chargers at the 11th hour if you wanted to.
Okay. Bob?
Yeah, I'm a little divided. I mean, I don't like the figure 1% of spaces will have EV charging. I think I lean to the opportunity to enhance that, and maybe it's not to go with the full 10.8, but at least move us somewhere between the 1 and 10%. You mentioned the codes have changed. If we were building this building today, we would be required to have 10%.
I guess.
Well, it would be 10% EV ready.
EV ready.
Which means that you could have the infrastructure in place, ready to install chargers, but you don't have to install them.
Right. We have the infrastructure.
And we will. So we would have EV ready for the 10%. And again, I think it's a good idea. I think it would be money well spent. I feel like where we don't have to make a decision this early in the game to install the charging stations at $434,000, could make that decision further down the road and still end up with the 10% if we chose.
Is there a cost increase or another downside to waiting 6 months?
The only thing really is we're doing the first coat of pavement in the south lot, but where it's laid out right now in that island space, there's a little bit more work we're gonna have to dig out, but we're gonna have to come back to that area next spring anyway. So, I mean, slight efficiency to do it this summer and just get it in, but in the grand scheme of the cost, no, it's very minor compared to the full cost here. And everything in the north will happen next year anyway.
Would it be something you could pull, I'm not to give you more work or anything, but do you think your staff might be interested in a survey or a poll? And
I can, 100%, it's an easy question. Do you have an EV car? Do you foresee yourself buying one in the next 3 to 5 years or whatever, so.
It might be
Definitely
surprising.
that.
We might be
Yeah.
surprised if there's a high rate of yes.
Yeah, I can do that this fall, so.
Bethany, what would the rate, not to put you on the spot, but to mobilize, if we were to wait 2 years or 3 years after project completion, we've all left, what would would it be a major cost to mobilize to come in and pull that wire and start installing after the fact?
Again, the wire is gonna be what it's gonna be to get to the end
Yeah.
anyway, right? You have a pole box at this location that we own. You have a 4-inch conduit going to that pole box, right? So the wire's gotta get there either now or 2 years from now. I'm not gonna predict the economy. For all I know, I'm guessing it'll get more expensive to build in the next 2 to 3 years, right? But realistically, these charging stations have footings, right? And from that pole box, you have a 1-inch, I think, conduit that goes to the charger. It's that 1-inch conduit to wherever you choose to put that footing and the physical charger that may be technology-wise old in 5 years, right? That is what we're talking about adding in this, and that's kind of the question. These are the ROM, rough order of magnitude, is based on the original EV charging stations we put in. Now it's very dependent on where do you want to put them and how many for us to go back and get true pricing. That's why this is an estimate based on previous.
And I don't know the final detail off the top of my head. Are they sitting in the grass space, or are they part of the sidewalk? So would you have to
Right
open up?
now, the one we have is in that island space,
Yeah.
so the grass space.
Okay.
So in theory,
Not
in
kind
2
of
years,
sidewalks.
in 2 years from now, if you have those islands all landscaped, you'd have to dig those up. You could probably just auger down to get the footing in, right? But you'd have to trench to get the conduit in. But you could probably contain it all. I would think a good contractor could contain it in that island. Maybe there's some curb removal a little bit, but like in the grand scheme, it's not like you have to excavate a whole trench all the way back to the building. You already have the infrastructure to that general vicinity. If you want to get the EV charging stations to the other side of the south lot, that would be a more drastic. You have to cut the asphalt, you have to you don't have infrastructure there. But if you're gonna keep it on this side where you have the infrastructure, in the grand scheme of things, it's not that drastic.
Okay. So, with that, how do we feel? Somebody willing to make a motion?
Just to get a sense of the committee feel, I'll make a motion to accept the proposal to add the 12 at 434,400. The idea being just getting a sense from the committee. That's where we stand.
Do we have a second?
They opened my mouth, so I guess I'll second.
Okay. All right, discussions. I'm sure there'll be some discussion.
Yeah, I think I personally would agree with Gary's approach and just having the infrastructure, waiting, see what happens, maybe do a poll, we can get some more information. And assuming the cost of the stations does go up a little bit, I don't think it's going to break the bank. So I'd vote for
delay.
For delay, yes.
Okay.
That's just me.
I would agree with that. I would vote for looking at this again in 6 months when we're 6 months away from substantial completion.
I mean, if we decided to do something, let's say next spring, would that present a problem for you at all?
No, I mean, realistically, we'd have to pull the pricing together, so I would recommend, if you know approximately what you want, to get the design done and then get it out for pricing so you can just pull the trigger quickly. In the north parking lot, you'll have the capacity there. The only thing I'll caution you against is if you wait till the spring to decide what you even want, then if we do the design, then if we have to price the change, right, we'll have to push that, but there'll still be time if you think about it. We're not really in this parking lot, we're in that till the fall. So the spring, fine. I would say don't wait till next July and then be like, oh, we want it next week, right? That's a little too tight.
So we actually were going to talk about that is exactly along those lines, is you could have a formal PCO issued with the final design and the layout if you agree with those two areas. They could break out the pricing by those two areas, which would be relatively the same.
Yeah, north, south, yeah.
Get a final number. We have a rough order of magnitude now, but you can actually get a change order, which we don't have yet. We don't have a pending change order. Get that done in the next couple weeks, month, come back to another meeting, and then decide you have time to have done a poll.
Yeah.
Because right now it's rough order of magnitude. We could actually get this design and get a real number, and then you know exactly what it is.
It makes sense to me for you to go back, do a design, get an actual number, and we'll be a little further along in the project and sort of have a better handle of where we are, with extras and whatever, and be able to make a decision, maybe. Or wait, but at least we'll have a design.
Exactly, and I think I think what you would want to vote on today, though, is where those spots are going. Right now, this design, this rough design, very consolidated in a spot where you already have infrastructure. That the cost for that would be. I'm very comfortable with this rough order of magnitude. Put it that way.
Yeah.
So I think that should be part of what you're deciding today. How many spots in and what locations?
Yeah, I mean, would it make any difference if we put all, 12 stations in one location rather than split them at all? Any
the
order of
conduits go in two
magnitude
separate spots, right?
difference?
We have conduits going to both. Yep.
So
But
it really
enough
doesn't
that many
make much
stations.
I
difference.
think the full.
I don't know if the
The engineer-
conduit going to the location is big enough to support. I think the conduit can support 10 at each spot. I don't know if one location can support 12, but we can confirm that.
You talk about 12 duels or 12 spots total?
12 duels.
12 spots.
12 spots,
So
yeah.
that would be
Oh,
6 duels.
gotcha.
Six
Okay.
duels, yeah, which is what we
Yeah.
have here.
Yeah, 6 duels, 12 spots.
Yeah, gotcha, okay.
I would say it makes sense to split them up. It's a big area. They serve multiple purposes. It's not, I mean, you've got the football fields and the tennis courts on one end, you got the Little League fields on the other.
Okay.
Auditorium.
Yeah, I would say if you're gonna do it, I
Point
would,
taken. Good.
I would agree that we get it designed and get it priced and revisit it. I probably wouldn't, maybe we revisit it in November, December.
So issue a formal PR,
Okay.
a formal pricing back.
That seem reasonable to everyone?
No, I think I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay. So, so the plan is to get a formal design of 12 dual stations, 6 on the north, 6 on the south, and we come back in a few months with a more solid proposal, and we'll make a decision.
That's a good idea.
Do not mean to overcomplicate this,
Go ahead.
but we have 2 in the north, 2 in the south, and 2 at the building entry.
Yeah.
Do we want to add 6 on top of that? So do we want to add 6 duels, 12 total? So we have a total of 12 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, 18? Or do we want to now remove 2 from the front end building entry and just do 6 duels? I mean, do 6 duels, 3 duels in the north, 3 duels in the south. What's the total number of spots? The original PR has 6 spots,
Yeah.
2 at each parking lot.
Yeah.
Do we want to add an additional 12 spots on top of that? So an additional 6 in each duels in each parking lot? So you'll have 7?
I think it's as simple as what's written here,
Yeah.
right? The original potential motion was to add 12 total stations, 6 at each parking lot to support 24 cars. So then at the end of the day, they'll have 30 total cars
Yeah.
supported with the 6 you originally owned and 24 new. That's
Yeah.
what's written here.
Yep.
I think that if we can agree that that's what's trying to be priced, then that
Yeah.
I think is the cleanest, unless we want to go less than that.
Yeah. I mean, we can decide at the time, when we see the design, A, we don't want to do anything. B, let's do another 6 dual stations. Or C, we can do 24.
Right.
But at least we'll have everything in front of us. We still have plenty of time. It's not going to impact the project at all, and it's probably the best approach.
Yep.
Okay. Anything further? Good.
Not
Good
on
discussion.
EVs.
Non EV, one remaining item. It's athletic field lines. Lucas, can you talk us through this one?
Love a lot.
Yeah. So we had a request to add some Little League fields to the athletic field lines. Just for clarification, our original spec, we own the football and soccer fields, and then we're painting on, for language, we have in lane or sewn in or turfed field lines. So you'll see those white lines and the yellow lines were tufted or inlaid from manufacturer, and then you paint on the football hash marks, the girls and boys, lacrosse, and field hockey. And then we had the request to add the youth soccer fields, approximately 30 feet apart on both. We'll put those in gray, and then we removed the double colored turf, so it's just one solid green color. And on top of that, when we made the request for the 30 feet, we found that we had some lines overlapping on the grays. So in order to make sure no lines were overlapping on the horizontals, we moved it to 25 feet apart, just so that the lines were clear. So
Yeah.
so that's what you're looking at now. This would be the revised, and we would issue this. And it seems as if since we moved some of it from turfed it to painted, it would almost result in a credit if we were to issue this as a PR.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so just to sum, what we're going to be sewing in the football lines, although I guess not the hash marks, similar to what they do at the high school, they paint those in.
Yep.
So we're going to be doing football, boys and girls soccer, you know, big boys and big girls soccer, as well as 2 fields for youth soccer.
Correct.
And they will paint in as needed, boys and girls lacrosse and girls field hockey.
Correct.
And just as a note, I did review this with Rick Morrison, and he was good with this, with
Okay.
the youth soccer. lines.
So next steps would be, we'd issue a formal PR,
Yeah,
price it out, whatever, we don't expect a major price change here.
exactly.
Get that back and re-vote it as a
Okay,
change order.
all right, good.
So that rendering there, that doesn't have lacrosse shown, right?
No.
Sewn, correct, it's not sewn into the field. it'd be
That gets painted in. It's gonna be real busy.
It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the problem when if you sew everything in, as you say, it's gonna be really, really busy,
Right.
so. You know, that was a field that, you know, it was always used for youth lacrosse. You know, it was one of the heaviest youth lacrosse fields around. It was always used for football. And it just made sense to keep those as the base. So, okay.
Youth soccer is the
Yes.
place.
Youth soccer.
I think that was just in this.
You said
What did I say?
You just said this.
Lacrosse.
Oh,
Youth
soccer,
lacrosse.
yeah,
Yeah.
sorry about that.
I thought, it's all good.
My kids played both soccer and lacrosse, so still somewhere in the brain. Okay. Anything further on that? Seeing none. Any other items we'd like to discuss, bring up? If not, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, I'll just do that as a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you.